All right. So I will have not go to the test. Maybe I'll start Friday if I'm lucky. We have, guess I'll remind you of the syllabus. First module is the syllabus. And we have, what do we care about? That there are 3 tests and a final. So we're expecting another test sometime in November before the final, which will be in December. So it'll probably be in sometime in November. It will be in the lab period again. It will be on a Tuesday. And our new topic, one of our new topics will be arrays. And then another topic that goes along with that, we'll probably do something with radio buttons. Radio buttons. So radio buttons, they act a lot like, our drop-down select. And so it gives you a number of options and you choose one, but we will be able to choose something. So that will be, those will probably be the topics of this next exam. So when you're dealing with radio buttons, there is some like array-like stuff in handling them, and that there's a number of things, and then you're choosing one. So it's very array-like. It goes together with the arrays pretty well. So that's what's coming up. There are then 3 tests and the final. The topic after arrays and radio buttons, we will start to work with objects and reading files. So the last test will be that material. And then of those 3 tests and the final, which can count twice, then so there are 5 scores, and then I drop one of those. So it could be one of the copies of the final, or it could be one of the tests. So that one of those, so you will have a lab grade 20%. And I sent this out in an announcement, but I'm just explaining again. There's 20% of the lab, which should be 100. Things from test 1 and now test 2 are late. So they are now worth 90. But that's still a lot of points. Same for homework. The homework from test 1 and test 2 is now considered late, but it's still worth 90. So the course is designed for you to recover, but you need to put in the work. And then there are the tests, which are 60% after one of those. Again, 3 tests and the final, counting twice, and one of those 5 scores gets dropped. Questions on that, where things stand. And the last day to withdraw, if you're looking into the crystal ball and saying, that's more than I can do, then the last day to withdraw is November 4th, which is coming up. Not the end of this week, but I guess the end of next week.
But November 4, what is it?
Friday.
No, I know, but
The last day to withdraw from a course. You don't need to withdraw, you're doing fine. If you withdraw from a course, if you stay in a course and get a low grade, an F or a D, then that affects your GPA. If you withdraw from the course, you don't get credit for the course, but it does not affect your GPA. That's what withdrawing is, and you don't have to worry about it. No, I haven't looked at your second test yet. All right, arrays, okay. So that's just class business. Now on to our new topic of arrays. Again, we started arrays Monday. I effectively did the homework for you, except you've got to change the name of the raise. I had course names and credits, and you have to change it to letter grades and the sort of corresponding number grades. But everything that you need to do, I've done. You just change the names. Okay, so we want to continue with arrays, get more array experience under our belt. We can redo some things that were awkward before, like when we had the Subway sandwich lab or the Uber. Those were a little bit awkward because we had a bunch of ifs, sort of saying if they chose this or if they chose that. And that's handled a lot better with arrays. So we could revisit some of that. We could do some counting and statistics. So we have like rolled dice, but we've never asked if they were fair, if 5s and 3s come up the same amount of times. We can say when we were playing cards, I said I can't do this properly because I don't have arrays. We couldn't like shuffle the deck. So we can do some statistics, have some scores, calculate averages and standard deviations. We can count up what's called a frequency to make sure our simulated dice are fair. We can shuffle the cards. What do you want to do? Shuffle the cards, okay. So where we had the cards were here. Now, did we put the HTML there as well? So I have from way back when, it's somewhere, one of the modules, there was that cards. When did we do that? I don't even know. Week 6, Friday. Wow. Okay. There it is. Blackjack. Exactly. Okay. Is that where I put the cards though? Did I put the cards earlier or, oh, here's blackjack again, a little earlier. Oh, and it's a zip. So the cards will probably be in there. Let me confirm that. So if you need the cards, yeah, go back to that week 6, get one of the zip files. The cards are in there if you don't have them. I already have them. Okay. So now we were playing a game before where there were only, at least initially, 2 cards. And so it was sort of rare that you got the same 2 cards. And then we did an if to sort of say, let's try to not get 2 cards. If we get the same 2 cards, let's do it again. And then we eventually changed that to a while loop. But now we want to do the shuffling. So I'm going to make a new page. I'll put it in the folder. Again, in my cards folder. And I'll say deck.html. And explanation. We'll say deck of cards. Deck of cards, okay. Now, how many, let's just make some place to put cards that we're dealing out. So I'm just going to make some div. Give it an ID. I'll call it the hand that one is dealt. And then I'll have some button for dealing the cards. I seem to like the button tag approach. And this will be the button for dealing. And it will have an on click. Then an on click, I got to spell correctly, that says deal the cards. And it should say deal. And then I need save that, close up the Explorer, make a little bit more room. And then what am I going to do? I need a script. And I need to start my function deal so it doesn't yell at me for not having something it's expecting. And I am not consistent in my case there, deal. Okay. So we don't have much. We have a header. We have a div to hold these cards. We're going to generate them dynamically, and we're going to pull them from some deck of cards. And okay, so first we need to let's just say alert here deal. So I'm not going to deal the cards just yet. First I have to make the cards and then shuffle the cards, and then I can deal the cards. Okay, so right now all it does is alert me, then says I've called the deal function. All right, so I need an array. I need an array that's going to correspond to the cards. My cards, if you recall, the images of my cards anyway are cards1.gif, cards2.gif, etc. Okay. So I want to make an array corresponding to the cards. Okay. So I'm going to, I can always get cards and .gif by concatenating. So what I really need to correspond to my cards are just the numbers 1 to 52. Okay. So I'm going to make a for loop. I'm going to declare an array. I'm going to have a for loop to initialize that array. So on Monday, when we made our array, our declaring and our initializing were one line. I said, let courses, my courses equal, and then I was right then and there saying, here what my courses are. I'm going to separate them here. I'm going to declare the array of cards and then separately initialize them. So that those two actions can be separate. I am going to make my deck of cards global. I'm going to declare them outside of a function because I'm going to shuffle them somewhere. I'm going to initialize them. I'm going to shuffle them, and then I am going to deal them. And all three of those actions need to know about card. So you want to call it card or cards? Cards with an S. Okay, so let cards equal, and then we just say open, close. We're not going to put anything in there. Are we going to type 1, 2, 3, 4? We could. We're not going to, but we could. That would work. But we know about for loops. We're all for loop experts. Okay. Again, we have this idea that we have a script. The script is at the bottom of the body. We can just start writing a for loop to initialize the deck, or we can put it in, say, the body on load. He likes body on load. And I could call it, as I sometimes have in the past, populate, or I could say setup or start or populate again. So I have another function I need. The order down here of defining the functions doesn't matter, but I'll put it first. It's going to be called first. I'll put it first. It doesn't matter. Spelled it wrong. Okay, so what are we going to do in populate? We have the deck, but it has no values just yet. So we are going to, as was said, start with a for loop, loop through the numbers 1 through 52. We know how to do that well, and use that to initialize our array. Okay, One thing I warn you about is that our numbers are going to start 1, 2, 3 up to 52. The indices of the array are going to be 0 up to 51. Okay, our indices, something you got to get used to. Array indices start at 0. But the person who made these images for me that I stole long ago started with a 1, and I'm too lazy to change all the numbers and start with 0. Okay, so here we go. So tell me what to write.
Let I equal 1.
Let I equal 1. He wants to start at 1.
Let's see, let it equal.
It's an equal to 52 for this deck. I plus plus. Okay, so this counter I started at 1. That makes it good for the values, but it's wrong for or it's off, I'll say, not really wrong, but it's off for the indices. I want to use this loop to give my cards a value. What do you think I should type?
What do you say?
We're using this loop to we have a cards array. And so the cards array is going to have elements, individual cards. And I want those individual cards to have the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 52. I already have the array. It's called cards.
Cards equal. I minus 1, right?
Cards.
Cards plus equals.
No, I'm not. That's for concatenating. So
You just want the number of the card.
I want an element of the cards array. To get an element of an array, what do I do? If I have an array, which is a bunch of things, how do I get an individual thing? So right now I'm making the placement. I'm going to
cards I equal I, something like that.
Cards I equal I, almost. I almost like it. It has to start at 0. Cards I minus 1. Could I do what? I could have started at 0. I could go 0 to 51, and then I probably do the plus 1 here. So it could have been done that way. We didn't, but it could have been done. It could have been started at 0. We could either say less than or equal to 51, or we could just say less than 52. I'm more of a less than 52 guy. And then it would have been I, and over here would have been the plus 1. So that would have done the trick as well. But so we load the page, the body on load calls populate, takes this array that already exists because it was global, and establishes individual elements, 52 elements, with indices 0 to 51, having values 1 to 52. Let's just do some funny console log here. where I'm going to just console log out the values, see if they're there, see if we have them. So I'm going to start at 0 now that I'm working with an array. And I always like to start my arrays counting at 0. And instead of saying 52 now, what am I going to do instead? No, I'm doing less than, so I do want 52, but instead of 52, what am I going to do? Cards length. Once you've established your array and it has a length, then use the length. There are decks of cards, there are other card games where the number of cards is not 52. Add into jokers or play pinochle or bridge or whatever other game you're playing that has a different number of cards. You don't want your code loaded with 51s and 52s that you have to change all over the place. If you have it in one place, you change it that one place and it's done. So you use length whenever you can. So after the first time we use the 52, we don't want to use 52 or 51 or 53 anymore. We want to use length. And then I'm just console logging. And we want to see cards I. I want to see the ith card, but I want to see, I'm looping through, I want to see all of them. So nothing's going to happen on my page, but if I open up my console, I should see the numbers. And since I'm pulling out cards, well, let me do this. Let me do I plus and a space and a plus. So let's see the I and then the cards I, and I should see 0, 1, 1, 2. So here's my fascinating page of just a button. And let me open the console. Where the hell's my console? There's my console. And it goes 0, 1. That's the index and the value, the index and the value. Okay. Now, what do I want to do? I want in deal, I want to shuffle the cards. So I want to take these numbers 1 to 52 and rearrange them. But I want all the numbers to still be there. This is known as a shuffle. So we want to shuffle the cards. Before we were just picking cards at random, and it was possible that we would pick the same card twice. Not likely, but possible. What we want to do is take our 1 to 52 numbers, arrange them, but have them all still there, and then just take, say, the top 2, top 3, depending on what game we're playing. 5-card stud, we'll take 5. 7-card stud, we'll take 7. If you're going to play some kind of free cell, some kind of solitaire, you might take all 52. Okay. All right, so how are we going to do this? Okay. Shuffle is like a standard kind of algorithm that is built into a bunch of languages. And so JavaScript used to not have one, but probably now does have one. But we're going to do it like an old-fashioned way. And then maybe I will show you a faster way another time. But we want to learn about arrays. So let's do it the hard way, and then we'll learn. When it comes to sorting, I'll do it the easy way. I will use the built-in thing, and I'll let somebody else torture you about sorting algorithms. People with PhDs in computer science love them. I just say the sorting algorithm exists and use it, but they love it, so I'll let them do it. They like to do it. I don't like to do it, but I do like to shuffle. Okay, so I'm going to loop through my cards. I am going to take the ith card. I am going to take some other card at random. We know how to get random cards. We know how to get random numbers. I'm going to take another card at random and I'm going to swap them. If I go through all the cards and swap it with another card, a random card, then I will have a random order of cards. Okay, so we know how to start. We're going to loop over our cards. I'm not going to console log them out, but I'm going to loop over them. Shuffle. Okay, I'm going to take the ith card. So I have a variable I, my counting variable I of my loop, so I exists. I want another index, then I'm going to get it random.
Yeah.
J?
Yes.
Okay. So let J, my another index, I want to get this index at random. Remember how to get random numbers? Math dot random gives me a random number between 0 and 1. Times 52 gives me a random number between 0 and 52. Not this time. I want an index, not a value. So what's the range of my indices?
So we leave it like this.
So we not quite
51. Times 51.
No. No, they're 50. No. Well, first of all, what are we missing from our normal thing? Math.floor. So let's get that in there. Because right now it's a floating point number and we don't want that. We want some kind of integer. And what are the possible, J is going to be an index. Let me write a comment. Get an array index at random. And what's the range of possible indices? 0 to 51. Have that. Don't add a 1. This is when we take math random, that's a number between 0 and 1. We multiply it by 52, that's a number between 0 and 52. It never reaches 52. And then if we take the floor, it's an integer between 0 and 51. And we want an index, not a value. And so this is I don't know where you want me to go up to. I don't. Okay. All right.
Can we just write some if
no, I don't need an if.
If J equal 51 plus 1. Then that's how.
I don't know what that. Anyway. I have my I, and I'm going to loop through I, so I'm going to visit every card. J is a random number, some other card in the deck. It is a random number between 0 and 51 inclusive. It includes all the possible indices. Now I want to swap my two cards. I want to take cards I and make it cards J. And I want to take cards J and make it cards I. Okay. So I have my index, my I is what? First time around, my I is a 0. And I have a J Give me a random number between 0 and 51. 12? 5. Okay. So I have 0 and 5. Those are the indices. Insert column. Insert. Okay. So these were the indices. That's the index. Then the value is 1 and 6. And I want to change. So cards I is cards 0 is a 1, and cards J, which is now a 5, is a 6. And I want to move the 6 into where the 1 is, and the 1 is to where the 6 is. How do I do that? That won't do anything other than throw off my loop. I don't want to change I and J. I want to change the values of the array. I want to change not I and J. I want to change cards I and cards J.
The array cards I equal J. And then cards J equals I.
We happen to have that these cards are right now in some order. And so do not rely on the fact, because we're going to mess up the order. So do not rely on the fact that the J card.
We need another variable to say that first.
Okay.
So cards.
No. You said the key word.
Let something.
Let something. We have cards I and we have cards J. And if we put what's in cards J into cards I, we will lose our value that's cards I.
That will become that third value.
So if I took cards I and said, make that 6, I've lost my 1. So what he says is give me another variable to hold my 1 so I can make the first one the 6, make the other one what I'm holding. So I need a name for this thing. Okay. I don't like either of those. I'm going to call it swap. All right. It's a value, not an index. So I don't want to call it K like I and J. I and J are indices, and this is going to be a value. So I'm going to give it a different name. It's just a name the computer would work. The computer doesn't care. Just I care. All right. Okay, you care. All right. Thank you for caring. All right. So we're going to say let's swap, and we can either use swap to hold the I or use swap to hold the J. I. So we're using swap to hold the value that has I in it. Then what? Now we can overwrite cards I because we're remembering that value someplace else. So now we can write cards I. And what's cards I? Card equals cards J. And then what do I need?
Equals swap. Swap.
Yeah, could have called it card swap, but I didn't. So I need to remember that was the key. That was me pushing you to realize that I was going to lose my values. First, we had to realize that this was about values and not about indices. And then we had to realize that we were going to lose one of those values if we just did a simple assignment with the two array elements. So we needed to introduce another element to remember another variable to remember something, and then we can do the swapping. And it has this sort of slant structure. Here's I on the left, sorry, I on the right, then on the left, J, and then the next one down, J on the right, and then J on the left.
Why don't we just create like a base like cards array of just like unshuffled and then just create a new one every time. Then every time we redo, we just revert back to the base.
We can, but we need a way to get the order. So we could have worked with a copy of the deck. We could have copied the deck and then shuffle that and left our original deck in place. And then you could have used, then your original deck is remembered. But once we get past the first moving around, then we can't refer back to the original. Like if I had said, what did we say here in our pretend? 0 and 5. Now I come up to 5 and I want to be shuffling it. But it's no longer a 6 because it's already been involved in a swapping. So I can't go back to the original. There are times I may want a copy of my original, but that wouldn't help here with the shuffling. So that there are times when that's a good thing to have. If we were doing statistics today, then a useful thing to do is to sort the array. Say you had a bunch of test scores and I wanted to drop your lowest score. Then I might sort the array, put them in an order, and then just throw away the first one, throw away the lowest one. In something like that, I don't want to ruin the order of your test scores. I don't want to pretend that you got different scores on different tests. You would be saying, I don't know what I'm doing. But so I might want the original array and an array that I reorder somehow. So it's not a bad idea, but it doesn't help me shuffle. Okay. So if this is an effective shuffle, let's see it. So let's just grab this. Let's just console log it out, but after it was shuffled. So now I should see the cards that I made in order. And then if I hit deal, I should put them in a random order. And display them again in the console. So this is the ordered. That happens on populate, which is when the body loads. And then if I hit deal, I get a random order. Your random order should be different than my random order. So the first card is 9. The second card is 13, 8. Every card, I shouldn't have any duplications. Shouldn't have any duplications because I had 52 cards and I just moved them. So there should still be, they should still have the values 1 to 52. Rearranged, but okay. So we've rearranged them, but we have not overwritten. We've overwritten values to swap them, but all the values are still present and accounted for. We have no duplications. So when I deal the cards, I won't need any ifs or whiles or anything like that to make sure that I'm not giving you the ace of spades twice. All right, how many cards do you want to deal? 5 cards. Okay, so let's do this. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's get rid of even this 52 by having a variable, what do you want to call it? Length. I don't know if I want to call it length. Deck length, I call it, maybe. That sounds bad. I don't know. Can't spell. And that's 52 and doesn't change. And I'm going to get rid of this 52 and call it deck length. And then down here, when I had cards length, it could either be cards length or it could be that deck length, either way. And now we're going to have another variable called it's how many cards are in the hand. And you wanted that to be 5. Okay. Because we have all these loops over cards, and we have to realize there are loops that are going to go up to 52, corresponding to the entire deck. And then there are going to be loops that go up to just the number of cards in the deck. So here in deal, I had a loop that went up through all the cards. I had a loop that is just behind the scenes loop, showing me all the cards in their new order. And now I'm going to have my third loop. That's why we needed to get loops done before we had arrays, because everything you do with arrays, it's like loop, loop, loop. I'm going to use I always use I less than what?
JavaScript, if we have 50 and the length of I is 52, will program return error, or is he smart enough to not go over?
If I made the array here larger, I would get larger than the 52 cards, I would get an error.
So we can say less than 52, then I plus 5. So I go every 5 instead.
You're trying to do what? Go every 5th card? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I've shuffled the deck so then I can just grab the first 5 off the top. But if I'm grabbing every 5th card, that's like I have 5. So I want just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my yeah. So this is just going to be hand. Hand was 5.
You want just one hand dealt.
I just want one hand dealt. Yeah, I think you were dealing more than one hand.
Yeah, I thought we were going to deal and
deal to 5 people.
No, deal
until the 2 were done with the deck.
Yeah, and the 2 cards left.
Oh, that's what you're asking. You can do things where we would need if I'm playing, like if I deal out 5 cards, one game is 5 card, and then you get to pick more cards. You could say, I don't want these 3 cards, I want 3 more. Then you would need so I'm going to deal out the first 5 cards, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would need something, I would need a global variable keeping track of that. So that if you said you wanted another card, I would know to grab that next index. So I would need a global variable. If I want, if I'm playing poker, 5 card stud, you get the 5 cards, that's that, it's done. If we're playing a game like blackjack where you can get more cards, then I have an index that I must keep track of in the array, where I am within the array, and I need that to be a global variable. So we can play a game that where we need to keep track of the index. Not today, I'm running out of time. So let's just deal out these 5 cards. What am I going to do? I have my deck shuffled up. My deck are just numbers. I want to make cards. I need to create images. Document. Create element. I'm creating an image. So I've created an image. I need to say that is let, I don't know, my card equal that. Then what am I going to say? My card, I need the source of my card. And I'm in the folder with my cards. So I don't need a folder name. I just need cards. And I need the number. What number? What do I need now? I. Well, need I? No, I don't. Yes, I need I. No, I don't need I. I don't need I need. That will, if I say I +1, that will give me the ace, whatever that is. It won't, all my shuffling will be for naught. What was shuffled? Array. So I don't want I want cards I. Yes, cards I. That's what we shuffled. Plus dot GIF. That would work, but I don't want it. Oh, come on. I created an image. I set its source. I'm not going to worry about size. I'm running out of time. Let me throw it onto the page where in the div I made. So document get element by ID, div, what did I call it? Div hand, probably. If I know me, div hand. And I'm going to append this child. And what am I going to append? I'm going to append my card. Any luck? I've dealt out 5 random shuffled cards. Now let me close. Oh, they're huge. I do need to control the size. There's my random hand. Let's, do you want me to work with this height directly or the style height? Style height. You always like me to work harder. Style height. Then I need, what am I going to say? 100. And I need, if I do style height, I need a unit pixels. And I screwed it up. Hard, thank you. All right, I got nothing. King high, but nothing. All right. And I didn't clear my div, so now I have 10 cards. So I should have what? Cleared. Cleared the hand. All right. And I'm out of time. There's my random cards, my next random card. So I got a pair of jacks that time. All right, so I'm out of time. I will stop recording. I will post this later in the day. I will hang out for questions.